So a few days ago I did a tier list on the best Guardians in Disney Mirrorverse. Today we're going to change it up and do a tier list on the worst. So these are the Guardians when you're progressing in the game. You might necessarily have them as a 3, a 4 and a 5 star, and they may help you through content, which is something that you want to focus on, leveling up your Guardians that are 4 and 5 star, because no matter if they're bad, they do help out in content. But these are the Guardians when you're progressing and you're further in the game. New content's coming out that's specific towards certain abilities, and these are the Guardians that lack those abilities and that don't really have any utility. So today we're going to be ranking them. Starting off in the melee category, we have Captain Hook. Now the biggest issue of Captain Hook is he lacks utility. His main focus of his abilities is just attacking his opponents, and he does die very quickly. So his core ability, when Captain Hook attracts an enemy without armor or lore, he applies a mark. Only one enemy can be marked at a time. When a marked enemy gains armor or lore, the mark is removed. And Captain Hook gains a 20% attack buff against marked enemies. If Captain Hook is the only Guardian attacking a marked enemy, the enemy gains a minus 10% attack debuff. And when a marked enemy is defeated, Captain Hook gains a 15% attack buff for 4 seconds. Now basically the issue of this, you can only mark one enemy at a time, and obviously you have to fight this enemy very close, and you might be gaining an attack, but you're going to be draining your own health when you're getting close, and it's just not really much utility. It's just basically just more attack. This goes for his special ability as well. Captain Hook deals 4 hits totaling to 300% damage and inflicts knockback. An additional 300% damage if the enemy is marked. If this special ability defeats an enemy, Captain Hook gains 10% attack buff until the end of the counter. So basically Captain Hook is just a damage dealer. That's it. He has no other utility other than that. He's a bit basic, and he will help you out if you got him as a 4 or 5 star in the early stages of the game, but as you progress he will not help. So next, for the worst ranged, we have, and I hate to say this, we have Merida. Now Merida in the early game, she's one of the first Guardians you pull, and she was one of my first ever 4 stars, and I took her up and I've used her every day since. But now, as I took her to rank 5, you slowly realise that she's not good for endgame content. She lacks in utility, and her damage with Scrooge McDuck is not as good. Her crits are not as good. So let's just go over her abilities. So her core ability, every 8 shots Merida gains a Wisp Focus buff for 5 seconds, granting 20% critical chance, and that's her core ability. It's legit 3 sentences. Her special ability, Merida deals 400% damage to her current target. If she has a Wisp Focus buff, enemies around her target will also be hit. Hit enemies are conflicted with a wound, dealing 50% damage per second for 6 seconds. So that's Merida for you. She's very basic compared to other ranged Guardians. She doesn't really stand out. She does in the early content, but as you get past the early content, you realise that she's very basic, and just by looking at her abilities, she doesn't have much going on for her, which is why she is at the bottom of the ranged. So next, for tank, we have the one and only Genie. Now the issue of Genie is he has no utility, he has a lazy design, and basically all he does is go invincible for like 3 seconds, gets hit, goes invincible again, gets hit, goes invincible again, gets hit and dies. He doesn't bring anything to the table, he doesn't give anything to his other Guardians that are around him. He's just basically a punching bag that dies very quickly. So his abilities go like this. His core ability, when Genie drops below 75%, 50% or 25% health for the first time in the encounter, he gains an indestructible buff for 5 seconds. When this buff expires or is removed, he stuns all enemies near him for 4 seconds. Whenever Genie gains an indestructible buff in this way, he gains 25% armor. So basically if he goes down and he loses all of his HP, he basically dies instantly. His special ability, Genie deals 400% damage and knocks back all enemies around him. Genie gains a 25% defensive buff for 10 seconds, and this stacks once. Gain 10% armor and lures all enemies for 10 seconds. So basically he's a punching bag that gets hit and he doesn't really do much. Once he goes down to 75%, 50% and 25%, he's basically dead, and then that's about it. So the final class we have is support, and the worst is Mike. Now obviously, like I said before, they're all usable, there's no bad guardians, but Mike is significantly worse than the rest due to his playstyle, and to get the most out of him you have to use heavy attacks, and it's unreliable for the AI to be using heavy attacks all the time, where you would have to swap to him, play him, continuously use heavy attacks and swap back to like your melee guardian. So he's not the best to use. So his abilities is his core ability: after a heavy attack, the ally with the lowest HP percentage heals 6%, and all allies with less than 20% health heal 6%. This ability has a 5-second cooldown. So defensive buffs from all allies are 10% stronger whilst Mike is in the encounter. Anytime an ally gains armor, whilst they already have an armor, they gain a 10% attack buff for 5 seconds. So that's his core ability. It's not bad. There's not really any bad supports, but he's not that good unless you have him as a high awaken ability sig. So his special ability: current target gains lore for 10 seconds, and allies gain 10% armor, 80% chance to cleanse 1 debuff from all allies. He's not the best. His playstyle, you need to use heavies, and if you're not swapping to him continuously to make sure he's using heavies, the AI is using the heavies, he can be quite weak and die very quickly, so he's not the best. So that's it for today's video. If you did like it, please leave a like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.